How you doing, good people? This is the 8-Bit Animal. And honestly, we don't give Tecmo their flowers enough, particularly when it comes to their NES stuff. You see, Tecmo took a bunch of their arcade stuff, realized that just straight up arcade ports wouldn't necessarily work for all of their games. It worked for Solomon's Key and it worked for Star Force, but it probably wouldn't work for Rygar or Ninja Gaiden or Tecmo Bowl. So they reworked those things and expanded upon things. And what we got were these phenomenal video games for the NES and the Famicom. Today's game is essentially an evolution of that. And it takes the idea of what a soccer game could be, hell, what a sports game could be, and kind of turns it on its head. This game was originally released in Japan as either the first or second, I'm not 100% sure which one, first or second game that was based on the Captain Tsubasa manga series. Captain Tsubasa is actually, I watched the anime, first couple of episodes of the anime before I recorded this, and the anime is pretty cool. It's about a little kid who's remarkably gifted at a particular thing, in this instance soccer or football, depending on what part of the world you're in. And this kid is a prodigy and wants to be the best in the world. Sound familiar? Because that's the case of a lot of anime or manga. But yeah, this game is pretty solid. And yeah, it takes a lot of the preconceived notions that we have for sports games and kind of just changes what we see when we look at a sports game. Today, we're going to take a quick look at Tecmo Cup Soccer Game. Alright, now I know the soccer game part probably didn't need to be said, but it's in the title, so I'm going to roll with it. So, this game, it took the essentials from Captain Tsubasa and Americanized them. So the main character isn't Tsubasa anymore. The main character is named Robin Field. A lot of the characters are heavily Americanized, and yeah. So essentially, you're playing a soccer game or a series of soccer games, and rather than directly control the action, you are using a bunch of menu controls to determine what your character is going to do. And so it handles a bit like an RPG mixed with one of those sports strategy games that used to be on PCs back in the day. And yeah, that's what we got. And it looks like just a never-ending Tecmo cutscene from the late 80s and early 90s on the NES. And it works really well. It's just, you gotta be used to it because it's really different compared to what we were getting previously in terms of sports games. But the presentation here is fantastic. You can't beat it with a bat, and it's one of those games that you have to experience at least once, especially if you like sports games, or you like RPGs, or you like strategy games, because all of that plays into what you get with Tecmo Cup. There are fan translations of the Japanese release of this game floating around, so if that's more your cup of tea, by all means go for it. But either way, this is definitely something you should try out. It's an excellent take on soccer games. Now, if you decide you want a copy of Tecmo Cup, cheapest copies I saw when I was looking up prices were like The cheapest, absolute cheapest copy I saw was like $90. All the rest of them are well over $100. This was 1992, and so this is what happened with Tecmo games around that time. Does anybody remember how crazy the price of Ninja Gaiden Trilogy on Super Nintendo is right now? And how crazy it's always been. There you go. So I will continue to say, figure out a way to play this. Make sure it's for you before you go and buy a physical of it. It's an investment. It's an expensive game. But it's also a really great take on what a sports game could be. A really non-traditional take. And it plays really well off of what the source material is without playing directly off the source material. You know? But this has been the 8-Bit Animal. And I'll catch you beautiful people tomorrow. Tomorrow, you know, it's a lot like Ring King, except there's nothing questionable going on in the corner between rounds.